Okay. Okay. What can you guys see on the screen?
We can see the first page, National Strategy on Blockchain.
National Strategy Blockchain.
Good, great. I'm just starting the stream and then we'll start. Okay. Great. So welcome to this session, and we are going to have a basic discussion around the national strategy on blockchain that the government of India has released. I think this report was released a day or two ago only, so it's very, very new. And there are lots of interesting issues that have been covered in it. So let me first take you to a list of the use cases. Just a second. I'm just scrolling to that. Okay. So what the government has done is it has made a list of potential applications, and I'm going to discuss some of these with you. And then, of course, we are going to try to figure out, how this particular use case could be handled, practically what issues would come. So when we look at the first one, that is the transfer of land records and property. This is one of the oldest blockchain cases. Right when blockchain technology was new, a lot of people spoke about this. In many countries, the land records are not maintained properly. Sometimes there is tampering of data. And because these are very critical records, there has to be a better way to do it. And a lot of people feel blockchain could be a way. Now, the first question we need to answer is, would this be done using a public blockchain, a private blockchain, or a hybrid one? What do you guys feel?
Hybrid.
Why is that?
Because just KYC, maybe they want to make sure that everything is, they know who the person is.
Anybody else has another idea on
this? I think it should be public, because it's available to all people in order to record their property. So it should be public to all people.
Anybody else?
I think it should be hybrid with permissions of only read to the general public.
Okay, excellent. So personally, I think this should be totally private. Yes. And I'll tell you the reason. Because see, this is not public data actually. Who owns a particular piece of land is not necessarily something everybody needs to know at every time. It is only certain times when you are entering into a transaction that you really need to know about this. So I believe this entire data cannot be kept in the public domain. So it should be a private blockchain owned by the government. So all the nodes are run by them. But there must be a web application to it, which does authentication, maybe takes some fee, and then allows you to download certain records. So I believe this should be a private blockchain completely run by the government, and all nodes should be government nodes, not private nodes. So anyway, that's my opinion. We can always disagree on that. Anyone has any disagreement on this point?
Rohas, so in fact, I have one additional points, because this is going to be keeping very, very important pieces of data. Not everyone should be allowed to write. So
absolutely correct. The writing has to be done only by the government.
Yes.
But the reading also is not like anybody can have a node. You can log in through the web application and be given partial reading rights once you pay for certain documents to be viewed. But yes, you're totally right. Writing has to be only with the government. Anyone else has anything to add?
Rohas, I think that out of the trilemma that we have gone through, that you discussed with us, the security and the decentralization are the two aspects that should be very critical and are imperative in such a blockchain arrangement.
So you feel security and scalability,
and the decentralization aspect
I kind of disagree, because this data is actually centralized data owned by the government. So we anyway cannot make it decentralized, because we don't want anyone else getting the node with all this data. So I think from the trilemma, we would then pick security and scalability.
Okay.
And of course, there is another issue which is going to come, is that, see, land records could have tons of documents. Now, as we have discussed so many times in the past, you cannot possibly put so many documents on the blockchain. That's not what the blockchain can do. It cannot handle so much huge data. So what I believe would happen is there could be some metadata, so where each property of land could be converted into an asset, and then that asset, the metadata could be little information about the owners, but the detailed documents would probably be off-chain. And maybe the hashes of that could be stored in the blockchain. but the actual documents will need to be off-chain because it won't be able to support too much. So now if we follow that approach where we convert each piece of property into an asset in itself, that can create another problem that suppose a person owning the asset dies and now the asset is going to be distributed to his children. Now, how do you divide a blockchain asset into 3? You get it? So that is going to create another unique challenge for us.
Ross, please, regarding this transfer of land record, should be implement something like smart contract? And smart contract applied by Ethereum, and Ethereum is a public blockchain.
No, you could always download Ethereum and run it in an enterprise scenario. Ethereum is only the open source software. You could download it and you could create private Ethereum out of it. So that is not a problem. But the point is, what is a smart contract going to do here? What do we need the smart contract for? Are there going to be automated changes or contracts happening? No. When it is land, there are going to be physical records, agreements that you need to sign, stamp duty you pay, somebody who witnesses the signatures. So I don't think smart contracts would really add much.
But it gives me the trust if I need to put something like a flat, like a property, and I'm not have the trust on the other, the man that he should buy to me this property. So I think if the smart contract already exists, I have the totally trust on something like that.
I don't agree with you because see, this is the government owned data. So the government would give you the data who owns the property and they would make the changes because those changes cannot be automated. Somebody will have to verify that the legal agreements have been signed because in India, at least, digital signatures are not allowed for property transfers. They have to be physically done. It is not, pure digital signatures. So because of the importance of this issue of property, I believe it is not a very good blockchain use case because I don't see the blockchain adding much value to it. I mean, converting it into an asset creates a problem. What if we are going to then pass on from one person to multiple descendants, his children? How do we break an asset up? Now, beforehand, we cannot create multiple units of the asset also because we don't know how many children a person is going to have in the long run. So I think property is not a good use case for blockchain. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Now, on the other hand, if you look at the second one, someone has something to say?
Okay, sorry, please, just to make some comment about the transfer of land records. What if, when the person is alive, the person could provide an update to the information the government already have? Maybe, okay, these are the total number of children I have, and by the time I die, I want this property to be shared among the 3 of them.
That's a will. Now, that's called a will.
Yes, that's a will. Now, if this is now created now, each of the fraction of this property will now become an NFT, which can be sold, which can be transferred, depending on. I don't know if you get the point I'm trying to.
I do, but I'll tell you the problem. See, property passes on because of various reasons. So there is, for example, if somebody dies without a will, then we look at his religion and then which law governs succession of property under the religion. So it's a very complex thing. There may be situations in which the siblings also get some rights. Maybe it is ancestral property and a person may not have declared all that. He may not even know all that. So considering the complexity, I don't believe land records can easily be put on a blockchain. Like, for example, if I look in India, we have Hindu law, we have Christian law, we have Parsi law, we have Islamic law. And each of the laws is different about how property will be passed on if you are leaving a will, if you're not leaving a will. So it is too complex. Then if the person is married or divorced, that creates another issue. Then there could be stepchildren, step siblings. So it is so complex that I don't believe smart contracts can handle it. And I don't even believe the blockchain can really add much value because ultimately all the data is with the government. And if the data is with one party, then blockchain is not adding anything. It is better that the government enforces strong, secure databases, maintains sufficient backups, and uses regular applications. I don't see the value of blockchain to this.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's clear.
Sure. Then there's a very interesting case which I'm a big fan of, which is digital certificate management. So let's take a simple example. You've done a course. How does somebody now verify whether you have done it? So let's say you are applying for a visa and the country needs to verify your academic records. You are applying for post-graduation, they need to check your graduation records. Or you're joining a company and they need to check your records before taking you on the job. Today, all those processes are very manual, time consuming. You need to approach different entities. So if everybody's documents are pushed, all academic records go on a blockchain. Anybody around the world can then access it. And of course, there can be an OTP system. If somebody wants to access my document, the software sends an OTP on my phone. I approve it, only then they can see it. So I know I've applied for a job. I know they are going to check. I can give them the permission. Now you may ask, why do we need a blockchain? Why can't this be a private database? And the reason is because here multiple people can write. For example, I am conducting this course for you called Blockchain ADDS. After you finish the course, I will give you a certificate. So I should also have a right to push the certificate to this academic blockchain. A college should have the permission. You may study in many different places. You may attend conferences. Different people will then need the rights to put this data onto a blockchain. And I believe that's a very good blockchain use case. Yes, Ashish, what's your question?
Rose, regarding this use case, so there is a matrix which I usually refer, which says in which cases blockchain is useful, in which cases it's not. So where we should go for traditional database and where we should go for blockchain-based database, right? So there is a very there is a point there, like unless both the parties are trusting each other, you may not need the blockchain, right? So in case of certificates and all, right, because if it's issued by a university, whether they keep it on a database or they keep it on a blockchain,
the difference, I'll tell you the difference. See, during our life, we may have studied from multiple places. So I've done schooling from one place, college from another, post-graduation from another. Somebody verifying will need to go to 3 places to check.
No, but Euros, there is already a solution. Like let's take example of DigiLocker.
That's the point. So that's exactly what I'm coming to. DigiLocker enables some of this to happen. But the problem with DigiLocker again is, can you push data to it? So if I'm a private institute, let's take an example. You have already passed in, you have studied at various places in your life.
Yes.
Now you're doing a course with me. How does my certificate, which I give you, how is it going to go into your single place?
Okay, I get it. Because see, currently, if I have to, I can pull three of my certificate. One is CA certificate, one is my university degree, and one is IIM Calcutta degree.
And what if you go abroad? What if you go abroad and do a course?
That's what we can't. So that is the issue. So
Correct.
That means you're saying it's limited to few parties who can issue it. So if you wanted to do it to the mass, then blockchain is the right solution.
Yeah. So here, ideally, this would be a public blockchain, because you can always implement encryption, because the data here is not very big. See, we are not going to scan your mark sheets and keep. We can pass all this data through JSON commands. You remember when we were passing data, we used JSON, and we can have multiple fields on it. So the data is small. Even if a person does 20 courses in his life, that data can be fit into a few KBs. And everywhere in the world where he does the course, the data can be pushed. So it doesn't matter which country. In the future, we may be doing courses on the moon. We may go to Mars. It doesn't matter. Anybody should be able to push that data. And anybody who comes to verify all your academic records just needs to go to one place. One OTP comes to you, and immediately your entire academic records are then made available. So that's the reason I really like this use case. Yeah, Mohit, you have a question?
Rohas, it can be used in banking also? Something like if
KYC?
it's used between not KYC, in order, for example, to help the client in order to get loans quickly based on something like that.
You're talking about credit history, which is a completely different use case, because actually, I think later down there is something related to that. We'll come back to it at that time. Right now, let's consider only the academic certificates. Yeah, Mohit, you have a question?
So, Rohit, just wanted to understand that will this blockchain be able to populate the courses that I've done across the world, right? How would it going to happen? Like, suppose I'm applying for a job, and then how would the
I
system
think
goes?
how this could go is that any institute which wants to push the record will again go to this web application and submit the request, and OTP should come to you saying that so-and-so wants to add a certificate to your records. You say yes, it goes through. So all that can be controlled very easily at the application level.
But if
where
somebody
these-
wants to seek the information, say for
again, the
login,
OTP comes to you, so you will get a notification saying so and so entity wants to view your academic records. And then if you say
Okay.
yes or you click yes, then only they can see it. So
Okay.
whether somebody can push the record or read the record, both could be ultimately controlled through the user.
Okay.
And the data which is pushed can very easily be encrypted and pushed because it is small data. So I think it can be very easily implemented.
Sure.
And some people have already started, but ideally we need a situation where all the entities are pushing to one blockchain. So that it's very easy to get all the data in one place rather than going to 10 places, because that doesn't solve the problem.
Got it. Thanks. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, Pratik, what's your question?
Yes, Rohas. In this case, would the institutions or educational institutions would be running a node? Whoever wants to submit a certificate?
That's a good question. So yes, anybody could run the nodes. Governments could run, educational institutions, anybody could run the nodes. That's the beauty of it. It's going to be a public blockchain with encrypted data coming in. So whoever wants can run a node. So maybe, these HR agencies which are there today, whose job is to do verification. See, ultimately the verification is not done by the company you're joining. Usually they outsource the work to someone. So
Okay.
those HR companies around the world who want to use the system can be made to hold the nodes. That you all need to have at least one node, only then you can query it. So I think those would be the people who have an economic interest in running the node.
No, I mean, I was referring to from the angle of submitting the certificate. Let's say if institution XYZ want to allot a certificate to me, so there's going to be institute XYZ who will submit it, who will run a node and submit.
No, they don't need to run a node to submit a certificate. You can use the web application to submit. Nodes are different. They can be run by different entities. Submission can be done by different. Now there will have to be some kind of payment. So either the university will pay or the person whose certificate is being uploaded, somebody is going to pay. That money can go to the people running the nodes also. So that becomes a revenue stream, and then the project can actually be sustainable.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
See, because anyway, today when we do courses, we pay for it. So maybe out of the fee, a small amount can be kept for the certification.
Sure.
Because, yeah, and then verification, when it happens, people pay for it. So the company also pays to verify your record. So that money is also going into the system. So it can become a sustainable model.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else has any questions on this?
Hi, Ross. Yes, I have a question. For this, we need to use different blockchains, right?
It has to be one, and it has to be the same blockchain that everybody uses. Otherwise, the data will get distributed. Then it will not solve the problem. Today, the problem is that, first of all, your academic records are not all online. And secondly, they're all over the place. Different universities may have it in different places. We need to bring all that together to one chain. That is critical.
Okay. So all the universities or other organizations need to use one blockchain for issuing their certificates, right?
That's correct.
But Rohas,
It's a tough job.
Sorry, I think one of the big challenge would be getting the historic records right. So, for example, person like me who is in mid-40s.
Okay, person like me, I'm 49. So
right.
For people like me, probably this won't work, because it's not practical to try to get data from that past, because it may not even be in an electronic form. So ideally, this would start from now. So let's say the system goes live in 2022. That's when it starts. And new data starts to move, because then universities will have to align their systems to push out the data in the correct format. So I think we shouldn't try to do it too much into the past. It should probably be in the future.
In the future. Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah. Then we have an interesting use case which is called identity management. Now, there are a lot of problems around identity. I mean, everywhere you go, you have to keep reproving your identity. Whether you are entering the country and you show your passport, whether you are applying for some banking services, you have to do KYC. Now, the ideal goal is that there should be one way in which you can prove your identity globally. So there is an X amount of data about people. There is the name, parents' details, address details, residential, passport numbers, driving license. So there's a lot of data, right? Now, is it possible for us to put all this data into a blockchain, then allow encryption so that only authorized entities see it, and then have a system of OTP where every time your data is being added or read, you give a permission when that is happening? Now, many use cases have come around. Many people have tried it. I am not aware of any one of them which has truly gone successful globally, because I don't think it's possible. The reason is there are far too many data points, and trying to get all of those data points onto one global platform, I don't think can happen. Like, how do you get driver's license on the platform? In India, for example, every state has their own departments, every city has their own RTOs. How is it going to be that we get every single department in the world to come onto the same platform and push that data? And then there is so many other types of data. There's passport information, there are property records, which you could, I mean, there's your credit history, which could be part of it. So where do we draw the line and we say, okay, this is the identity data of someone? I feel the problem is too complex. And then the data privacy issues come in. There are different laws for different kinds of data. So can your health records be part of it? Is my blood group a part of my identity? I don't know, because if it is, then it brings health record, which comes under its own laws, like the HIPAA in the US. So considering the complexity and the legal challenges and the volume of data, I don't think this use case can be done. My opinion. What do you guys feel?
Oh, I think it's too complicated to us. I mean, given the security also
Absolutely
plays a big role, okay.
Absolutely.
But Rose, at the entry level points, let's say if you want to use this for the immigration purposes, at least the passport identity is there, and at least, I mean, most of people, like not in India but outside, there are a passport or their social security ID remains the primary document, and they both are somehow linked. Right. So I've seen some people talking about immigration using this blockchain in immigration also. So that can be one of the use case in this.
That can be a small part, but then the holistic solution is not there. In bits and pieces, we can do it. But then the problem is, if you're doing a small part, then why blockchain? It is anyway then centralized data, let it be in one, let people directly do it. The blockchain sense makes case in this digital certificate, because we are saying it is possible for the world's educational institutions to push data onto one blockchain. But it is not possible for all the world's government entities to push identity data on one place. That's the problem with this use case, I feel. So what you're mentioning is again one part.
Okay, but is it the goal of government also? Because they are talking about national strategy of India, right? Blockchain strategy. So they are talking only in Indian context, or they want to, because adoption of worldwide will take time.
Over time, the Indian travels abroad also, and foreigners come into India also. So we are going to have to integrate this into something more global. Otherwise, it doesn't solve the purpose, because so many Indians travel abroad to study. If foreign institutes are not supported on this digital certificate management blockchain, it doesn't solve the purpose. So we have to consider globally. Some things may be pure India-centric, like transfer of lands, which we anyway didn't like the use case. That can be India-centric, but digital certificates have to be global. Identity management has to be global.
So I got it. Like, so target is like we have this, like we have Interpol database, right? That is available with all the let's say immigration. So it's a centralized, maintained somewhere in Switzerland. Like, so this kind of thing, like we have a centralized thing, is not centralized, like where everybody can come and put their data and the world can use it, right? So we're talking about this.
That's what we're thinking about. That's right. Okay. Then comes a very controversial one, which is EVoting.
Rohas, one point here I wanted to just check with you, that when we are talking about the identity management, if there is a possibility of any hacking that happens, then the data that would be hacked would be actually a very devastating situation, because they could contain the biometrics too.
That's a point. That's why we said in that use case, there could be confidential data, health data. So yes, you're right. That creates a lot of issues.
Yes,
I agree.
Yeah, thanks.
Sure. What about e-voting? I mean, see, in companies, it's already being done electronically. Whether they use blockchain or not doesn't matter. But I believe if it comes to elections at the governmental level, when we are voting, confidentiality is critical. Nobody should be able to see who I voted for. That's one of the bedrock principles in a democracy, right? Your vote is confidential, because if somebody can see who you vote for, that creates a lot of problems for you. Now, how are we going to manage that on a blockchain? Because if each individual is given an address, we need to map somewhere that who this person voted for. We need to have that mapping between the address and the person's name and other details. So how will we ensure confidentiality? Because blockchains are transparent. Then we have another option. We could use a Monero kind of a blockchain, which is not pseudo-anonymous, but it is totally anonymous. But then I believe elections in democracies are so critical. I mean, nothing in a country, in a democracy, can be more critical than the voting and election system. So I would totally be against trying to put blockchain into that. I wouldn't trust the blockchain technology that much to handle our democracy. So that's my personal opinion. What do you guys think?
I think also, Ross, it's a good use case for decentralization and in order to prevent the corruption from centralized places also.
But how would you use blockchain for voting in a way in which the identity of the voter is confidential? Nobody knows who voted for whom. And at the same time, we ensure that everybody votes only once. And we ensure that, fake people are not voting. And we have to ensure that it is confidential. I'm not able to figure out how we could do that on the blockchain. That's my only point.
Rose, could it be possible, like someone, like people who come for vote, especially in India, right? If they bring the Aadhaar card or some ID, and the moment they enter the ID, right, that gets encrypted, okay, and then they can vote, so that the confidentiality is still maintained, right?
Okay, so firstly, we need to give an address to this person because the blockchain address format is different from, say, an Aadhaar format. So today when I go to vote, I will be carrying one of my ID proofs. The number on that is not going to match the number on the blockchain because there is a particular mathematical algorithm which determines what your blockchain address looks like, because you have to have a private key which is then going to digitally sign your vote. So how are we going to maintain the link between my individual Aadhaar number and my blockchain private key or address? How are we going to do that in a way which maintains privacy?
Hi Ross, like if we can generate a hash of our Aadhaar number or maybe our voter ID card hash.
No, that will be again reversible because there is we already have a list of all the Aadhaar numbers, all the driving license numbers. So it's very easy to map it with the hash. You get it? You'll immediately be able to map and create a rainbow table with each person's hash corresponding to the Aadhaar number. So no, those are sequential numbers. It's very easy to create a rainbow table of all the numbers. You get it? See, like even if you want to create a list of every phone number in the world, you can do that. You can just open Excel and enter. I mean, Excel can populate it with every possible 8-digit number or 10-digit number. And suddenly you have every phone number in India. Do you get it? So that can very easily be reverse hashed then. So no, I don't think we can do that. Is that clear? Anyone else has a different point of view?
So Rose, just small, thinking on a different end. So currently what we do, like we ask people to show a voting ID and then go and vote for themselves, right? And that things, whatever vote is going on, nobody knows about that. So when we are talking about blockchain, are we asking people to just stay at home and vote, and we will still ask them to come to the booth and go and vote on the blockchain?
That's an excellent point. Ideally speaking, people should be allowed to vote from home, but I doubt whether that is going to be able to happen so fast. But either way, the challenges would be the same. Although I do get what you're trying to say, that if we go to physically we go to vote, they can check our identity, right? But then again, yeah, I mean, how would we map those addresses is what I keep wondering. That means when you go to vote, right? Would you create a new address at that time? Is that what you're saying?
No, there are, let's say, there are 1,000 registered voters, and we have created 1,000, and it's on first come first serve basis. Let's say the turnaround is only 60%.
But then tell me, how is it going to be better than the current EVM system that we already use in India, for example, where it is electronic voting machine, you click there, and the results can be instantly got. How would the blockchain improve that?
Immutable, right? Because then you have like
actually, so are those voting machines. It's never been proven that those voting machines can be hacked. They're considered immutable.
Yeah, but that because problem with those machines is somebody has to physically take it around and go to the station and count it, right? Because then they have their own machines to check the number. In this case, you don't. I mean, you're directly doing on voting machine, somebody casting their vote in Tamil Nadu, people sitting in Delhi can see like in which favor that vote has been casted. They will
But
not
then
see
that means you're talking about putting your entire voting system on the internet. That it opens it up to so much of hacking, because if we want the data to be visible online, then a hacker could break in also. It would create then its own new set of security implications.
But we are talking about federated blockchains here, right? So federated blockchains.
You do have some interesting points, and in fact, IIT Madras, if I'm not mistaken, is already working on a project with the Election Commission on using blockchain for elections. So maybe you have points both ways. So maybe that could be a good use case also. Depends if we can solve some of these issues. See, we are only discussing, right? I'm not claiming to have the answer.
even I don't have. So I just a thought.
So we're just kind of brainstorming and trying to figure out whether the use case makes sense.
Yes.
Anyone else has any?
Yes, Rohas. So I believe that the blockchain really adds value here, because the EVM machines we spoke about, first you have to physically go, and we see in certain areas there is violence. So if you're sitting at home, you can actually vote. You would see that number of people who vote substantially increased. Number one. Second, you spoke about the privacy, how to keep it confidential. I think that there are ways in which we can do it. I mean, this can always be run as a private blockchain managed by the government.
Sure, definitely your ideas are making sense. Yes,
but if you want to keep your so there are two problems to solve. One is you want to ensure that a person does not vote 2 times, and the other point is you want to ensure that no one can see whom the person voted to. I think that there are ways where you can keep two set of data points, where one set of identity can be used to check if the person has voted already, and the second set of same maybe Aadhaar number or something can be used, hash with timestamp or something, so that you don't know whom he voted for. You basically will not be able to generate if you do the hashing again.
Sure. That's an interesting idea. Sure, makes sense. Anybody else? Would you like to add something? Yeah. Now this is by far my favorite use case, and it is also proof that the government of India is never going to ban crypto, because one of the use case suggested is government crypto wallet platform for selling, buying and trading. So now when we say government crypto wallet platform, it is going to be structured like a centralized exchange run by the government, and in any crypto exchange we anyway can hold our tokens. So that means we would be able to hold our tokens there, and we would be able to buy, sell and trade. So it becomes like a full-fledged centralized exchange. And I don't know, personally I think it's a brilliant idea, because in this case then what would happen is, suppose the government insists that you can only use this platform, well then there would be mandatory KYC. You would have to go through the proper banking channels. The government would not be worried about money laundering, because they would make sure everything is done through regulated channels. And I personally absolutely love this idea. And it is also proof that the government of India is never going to ban crypto, because they are actually talking about building their own platform for it. And we'd probably be the world's only country to do that. I don't know, the rest of you who are from different countries, do you have something similar in your nations? Like I know Nigeria has launched its own central bank digital currency.
Yeah,
so has China.
eNaira.
Yeah, the eNaira is available. So although I don't think your government allows crypto, they are basically talking about the CBDC. But crypto, I think they are negative on. Am I right on that in Nigeria?
Yeah, you're very correct. They are negative about crypto currencies like Monero, Bitcoin, and Ethereum, Ether, and the rest of the likes of them.
Sure. So what about the others? There's so many people. Anyway, a lot of you will be watching this video later in your time zone, but do let me know in your country. So we have people from 35 countries in this batch. So I'd really like to know from all those 35 countries, first of all, what do you think about these use cases? And secondly, what's happening in your country? So it'll help all of us to learn what are the best ways of handling this. So I look forward to feedback from some of the people who are not here right now, but who later look at the video. But I'm absolute big fan of this use case. Does anyone have a negative opinion on this, or you want to add something about this use case?
Rohas, one point here. that what about the current exchanges here? Like there are so many WazirX and so many exchanges. So what would the government do? Would it ban them or like decommission them?
I wish I could answer that question, but I have no idea. I mean, let's see what the government has in plan for it. But if they are planning their own crypto wallet platform, well, maybe the others could also be allowed to build layers around it. I mean, if we take an example, there are so many government services where private people also build apps on it. So maybe private exchanges would be allowed to use the core platform made by the government. I don't know, but possible.
Rohas, yeah, what's your view on the smart grid application?
This
yeah,
12 number?
12, yeah.
Okay, so this is a use case I've been hearing about for a very long time. So the first time I heard about it was several years ago when they said in some European country that in your house you have solar power generation facility and that feeds into a grid which your neighbors are also connected to. So if you go on a holiday, you are not using any energy, that energy is being sold to your neighbors and the payment and everything is happening on the blockchain. Now it sounded really good to me, but I haven't seen it become successful. So I don't know why it didn't succeed, and I don't know much about the energy industry. So unfortunately, I'm not able to comment. Fundamentally, theoretically, it sounds good to me, but I don't know the ground realities. Does anyone here have more idea about the energy industry, and maybe you can add something?
So basically, I live in the UK, right? So in my neighborhood, I don't have the solar panels, but a lot of my neighbors have got, right? Yeah, so you're right. Okay, they push the energy into the grid, if they're not using it, and of course, I mean, it gets offsetted against their utility bills. But my worry would be, like I want to know who's providing the clean energy to me. For example, there are so many retailers out here, in the UK. So I'm not clear. Okay, as in, okay, do they claim to do what they are saying? For example, are they using renewable energy, or are they using coal or the nuclear energy? So really, it's not clear, as an end consumer, right? Whether should I be going with these people or not?
Sure, that's an interesting point. Anyone else has any idea on this?
I think it was. I worked with one of the companies on this solar grid, and the major issues which they actually encounter is, one is when companies are selling the electricity back to the grid. So there are a lot of sometimes reading issues. So I've seen most of the cases there are a lot of reconciliations, or they end up on the negotiating table. So I think they are trying to address that, because there can be a lot of leakages there. Because sometimes people say, okay, no, the leakage was happening at your transformer and not at the grid end. So those things keeps happening. But if they do it through a blockchain and maybe IoT devices are feeding that data directly, then that kind of problem may be solved. That is one I can think of.
Okay.
Second is solar panel tracking also, because there is a particular life for each and every solar panel. But even if there is a small hairline fracture, it will be useless. So to have that tracking of their life, of that panel, when to change it, it can be useful.
Sure.
Because there are a lot of companies currently who are currently investing in solar panel and doing it only on leasing basis to the companies, and they pay them either through electricity or they sell it to the grid and generate their revenue through that. So it becomes getting the data becomes very complicated for them.
Okay, interesting. That's a very nice perspective. Anybody else? Okay, this is another very interesting use case: multiple layer and multiple level access blockchain based cloud storage of health test records. So I'm guessing when they say health test records, they're probably talking about blood tests and other such things, which could then be stored on a blockchain. Well, I think we have somebody here who is from the health industry and is working on a blockchain use case. I'm not sure if she's right now here or she watches at a different time zone, but maybe we'll wait for her feedback on this use case. Is there anybody else who has any idea about the health sector? Okay. Then there are a few more here. Yeah. This is another very interesting one, which is digital evidence management system. So in criminal cases, when the police is investigating and there is digital evidence, then the blockchain being used to manage that digital evidence. So unfortunately, till we understand more about it, I wouldn't be able to comment. Although coming from this industry, I find the use case interesting. But I'm not really sure how it would work because digital evidence goes into GBs and terabytes of data. So I'm not really sure how the blockchain would fit in, but it's an interesting concept. Does anyone want to add anything on that? I hope you guys are able to hear me.
Yes, Rohit.
Yeah, awesome. I'm always worried that I haven't gotten disconnected. This is a very nice one. Blockchain for social good use cases, charity and donations. Would anyone want to comment on this? What do you think this could be about?
I think this could be a very good use case, Ross. Especially like, okay, a lot of the agencies, right, okay, who do the good cause. And sometimes as an end user, okay, you really don't know whether your money is really going into the correct hand or is it being, okay, given to the right people, you know. So probably some having those kind of an end-to-end transactions, okay, which if it's on the blockchain, right, and if I want to verify it, yes, it is helping the needy, right, okay, then I think probably it would make sense, you know.
So how do you think this would work? It would be fiat payments or it would be cryptos?
I think it would be a fiat payment, okay, from the people, right? And then probably yes, I think that from a record perspective, yes, everything is on the blockchain. All the charities and the donations will be on the blockchain, but I think it would still work as a fiat currency all the way. But at the same time, right, okay, if people want to do a swap between the fiat and the crypto, I think the blockchain should have that facility as well, you know.
Definitely, definitely. Anybody else would like to add something here?
Rohas, here, coming from the AML background, I think so. NGOs and certain such centers could be heaven for money laundering. So it has to be very clear as to what this charity and donations that are being made are used for the genuine cause. So if that could be ensured, putting up the information and record on a blockchain is one part, but how that we ensure that there is no cartel formation and there is a genuine cause for which this social is running for.
That's a very good point. Definitely. Would someone else like to add their perspective?
Because I have a different perspective based on current affairs. So I was reading some of the articles where they were saying the next generation warfare, especially in democratic country, will be in this form. So where the foreign governments are funding NGO in particular countries to go and protest against particular projects. So for example, in India, if we are building something, let's say near the India-China border in Arunachal Pradesh, right? So there are NGOs who will go and protest, okay, this is because of environmental progress, or there will be many issues. And if we go and track back, there are a lot of funding which are coming from either our neighboring country or from other countries who don't want to want India to do the progress. So in that case, it can be a case like we can track back from where the donations are coming in, and they have to do who the donors are. Then it can be useful actually.
Sure. That's a good idea. Anybody else? Okay. There are a couple more which I found quite interesting. So this one, national and state highway toll collection tracking of public infrastructure. So the toll collection is an interesting thing because what it could achieve then is the same method could be used across the country. So today we have state level different systems which are also being used for toll collection. And if all of that is put onto a single blockchain, then maybe you could have one card. Like say today you have a card which would work, say in a metro. So like for example, in Singapore, you can use the same card for the trains as well as for the buses. But then this kind of a system, if we bring into other countries, maybe this could enable the same card or the same method to be used across the country for all toll collections. Sounds very interesting to me. Does anyone have a better idea about this? Anyone? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, Rose, we can hear.
Okay. So I'm guessing this is not something too many people know much about. This is another lovely one, asset transfer across government departments. That's an absolute amazing one. So government departments have such huge amount of assets and tracking the movement obviously must be a big pain. Now imagine if every asset is actually created on a blockchain and then every time it moves from one location to another, you are passing a record, a transaction is happening where metadata is being added. So and GPS data could be added into this So when an asset moves, let's say in the military, it could be running in a private blockchain for the military, Army, Air Force, Navy, and every asset is on it. And every time it moves, the GPS data is also pushed. So you have one dashboard in which you can actually then view exactly at this time where a particular asset is. I think that's an amazing use case. What do you guys think?
Rohas, I didn't really get why you said that the previous use case also was great.
Which one?
For blockchain, national and state highways.
As of today, are we having a single way in which we can pay across the country at toll?
No, they're trying to do that with the FASTag, I think, but it's not.
But then, what possibly could be done here is it could not only do for toll, but then you could use that same card, let's say, to pay at a taxi service. But of course, you could also question that why can't we just use UPI for everything? So,
Right.
So there are good and bad points. You do have a point. I mean, this use case may not be that useful. I mean, the way I could think about it is, yeah, maybe UPI could do a better job. Or like you're mentioning, FASTag could also do a better job. Yeah. So,
but they're saying that this will also track public infrastructure simultaneously.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that part means.
Okay.
So I was a little confused about, see, this part I still understood, but the tracking I didn't. But this I get, the asset transfer I get. So maybe that's also part of public infrastructure, but yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. So this is the list. I mean, I know we've not done all because some of them are pretty simple and straightforward. Some seem a little bit more advanced. Like this is another very unique thing. Now, I don't know whether in other countries you have chit funds, but that's a very interesting concept in India, where, you know, that's a way in which small groups fund each other. It's kind of like a, you can sort of say microfinance, but slightly bigger amounts. But it's a way in which small groups and business communities invest in each other. And you borrow money and you pay some interest around that. And putting all that onto a blockchain sounds interesting. I'm not really sure what the problems in that currently are. Does anyone here have more idea about chit funds? Have any of you ever participated in any of them?
No, but there have been multiple scams about chit funds run by slightly shady operators who collected a lot of retail money. And as far as I gathered, there used to not be too many regulations around it. So they gathered money from gullible investors and ran away with it. I'll find the links and send you.
Sure, you could share that on the group. Maybe that'll give us an idea. Definitely. So these are the things. So I've posted the link to this document on the group also. So you all can have a look at it. And this is page 28 and 29, which lists out all the use cases. So it'll be great if you guys look at them, because ultimately this is the best thing. When we talk about learning blockchain, ultimately we have to apply it in use cases. So it's nice that the government has given us this nice detailed list, based upon which we can figure out which use cases are good and which are not so good. And in other countries which are looking at it, maybe you could share this document with your own government departments and they could also get ideas from this. Anybody else would like to add anything?
Rose, I could find my use cases in this.
That's good.
3 numbers 16, 28, and 29.
16. One second.
Up.
16 is validation of bill of lading.
Yes, this was one.
Then 17 is a validation.
28 and 29.
That's customs and trade finance and cross-border trade. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Those are actually proven good use cases. That's the reason I didn't discuss them.
Yes.
So I try to discuss those which were relatively new. Of course, my favorite will remain 14 number. This one. Government crypto wallet platform. I think that would be absolutely amazing. I mean, then nobody would have any worry about dealing in crypto, and it would really make crypto mainstream if this happens. Kind of reminds me of what El Salvador is doing. Of course, they're doing it primarily for Bitcoin as of right now, but I'm sure in future they may add other cryptos. But yeah, this is probably at that level. So great.
You should have given that human NFT case. That is like one of the best, which should have been here.
Oh yeah, actually we hadn't come out with the idea when this report was being created, but definitely we hope the government does come to know about the idea and does probably enable more and more Indians to raise, and more people around the world to raise money through that method. So great, it was a lovely session speaking to all of you. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time, and please work on your assignments quickly. We are nearing the end of the course. We have security still to go, and we do have career opportunities to go, but more or less we've done a lot. So now I need you to quickly revise all the videos, get ready with your assignments. We are approaching the end of the course. The course is over in December, so you don't have too much time. So please work on your assignments at the earliest.
Is it over next weekend, Rohas, or does it go on longer?
I don't remember. I'll just check and let you know on the group.
Okay.
Yeah. But I know that we have just about a couple of topics to go.
Right. So I was wondering if others would also like that. If we could have a week's break between the last two sessions and second last ones.
Can you put that on the group and everyone can just click like on it and we'll do that?
Okay, sure. That'd be great. Thanks.
Great. So I'll see you guys tomorrow then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Welcome.